We have 105 days until Election Day. And in that time, we've got some work to do. I am running to become president of the United States of America.
Kamala Harris, the Democratic elites are trying to install her as their new nominee without her receiving a single vote for president. The media, our friends back there, they call it a coronation. I think there's another word. I call it a coup. In America, we do not crown our leaders, we vote for them. Democrat or Republican, you got to give the voters a choice.
I know Donald Trump's type. I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to take our country backward. He and his extreme Project 2025 agenda will weaken the middle class. We are not going back. Not going back. We're not. So some of you may have heard Donald Trump's running mate deliver remarks at the Republican National Convention. He talked about his life story about growing up in Southwest Ohio, and it was compelling. It's a compelling story. And it was not the full story. Frankly, what is very telling is what he did not talk about on that stage. He did not talk about Project 2025, their 900-page blueprint for a second Trump term. He did not talk about it because their plans are extreme and they are divisive.
Now, I saw the other day Kamala Harris questioned my loyalty to this country. That's the word she used, loyalty. And it's an interesting word, simplify, loyalty, because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. And I'd like to ask the vice president, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America?
MSNBC just got shocked as a Democrat exposed the reality of Vice President Kamala Harris's polling numbers. I know, but at this very moment, the narrative has been switched from someone that hasn't seen much airtime since the start of her campaign to a presumptive nominee for president. We're now being bombarded every day that Harris is closing the gap with Donald Trump, and that it's only a matter of time until she gets the numbers in her favor. Harris, on her end, has shown confidence and is saying that she's ready to go head-to-head with Donald Trump if that's what needs to happen. She even called him out recently for allegedly backpedaling on the September 10th debate. Now, the problem here is that Kamala Harris wasn't even part of this plan. In fact, that debate was prepared for Donald Trump and former Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. But Harris is now arguing that Donald Trump has already agreed to their debate. Now, again, she's referring to it as if she's already the presidential nominee of her party. Trump's campaign communications director, Stephen Chang, he says it's inappropriate to schedule anything with Harris because it's still possible that she's going to be replaced between now and then. Although it's now looking much more positive for Harris, given the fact that even Barack Obama and Michelle Obama have finally given their endorsement, even though it took more than like a hot minute for them to bless her with it. This means that it's now more than likely that Kamala Harris will in fact face Donald Trump in the upcoming election. And while many Democrats are celebrating the idea, there are still those who are firmly grasping to the truth. All of this excitement and optimism may suddenly go away once they see how badly Harris performs in this debate. But here's what James Carville had to say about Harris's honeymoon phase.
James Carville, you were out on a cruise ship that didn't stop you from talking sometimes to interviewers, and according to the New York Times, working the phones, because you are part of the leadership and the emeritus number of campaign experts in the Democratic Party. Now, as you know, James, there's an old saying, you don't always have to be on the cruise ship to see how choppy the water is. I don't know if you know that saying.
Okay. I know it now. It's very sage.
The water was choppy. Now it seems in all measurable ways, from buzz to the polling we just mentioned, and I'll show more about in a minute, to fundraising, to have a lot of smoother sailing. Your thoughts first, big picture.
Well, I hate to do this, but I got to be the curmudgeon. I have to be the skunk at the garden party. This is too triumphalist, okay? This is everybody's giddy. I look at the coverage and it's great, and if I had to write a play about what I think it's going to be like, it would be entitled The Ice Pick Cometh, okay? Get ready, they're coming, all right? And it's good, everybody should feel good and liberated and everything else. But if we don't win the election, we hadn't done anything. We haven't changed the temperature in America, we haven't changed anything. And I think the vice president, I hope that, her campaign is getting ready. I hope they'll listen to my friend and fellow New Orleanian, Don Brazil, who actually, I think, has the same kind of view of politics that I do. And they're coming at us, and they're going to keep coming. And this kind of giddy elation is not going to be very helpful much longer, because that's not what we're going to be faced with. And I think the vice president, put it in athletic terms, needs a really good cut man in a corner, because she's getting ready to get cut.
And this is what Democrats, especially left-leaning media news outlets, are not receptive of. That it's highly plausible that this excitement that surrounds Harris will eventually die out. It's kind of like we're looking at her political 15 minutes of fame. But once that time is over, people will likely go back to realizing that, well, she just really hasn't done a whole lot during her term as VP, because she hasn't been attacked as much when it comes to her policies, because she's inheriting them from Biden. She really doesn't have much to show for, as the border crisis hasn't gotten any better with her in charge. There's also the matter of her helping cover up President Biden's health from the American people. In fact, a recent poll shows that 90% of voters believe Kamala Harris is to blame for the cover-up of President Biden's mental decline. A YouGov Times of London poll came out and found that 9 out of 10 voters believe that VP Kamala Harris was very much aware of the progressive deterioration of President Biden. A fact that even mainstream media couldn't deny, which led to a lot of outlets like CNN and MSNBC criticizing President Biden for this problem. And as confirmed by FBI Director Christopher Wray, Vice President Kamala Harris was most times involved in meetings with the president. So what happens when Donald Trump questions Harris about not informing the American people about what was happening behind closed doors? And here's something we need to realize. After all of the glazing that she's been given since she took the spot from President Biden, not much has happened in terms of polling. I mean, look at the numbers in the battleground states, right? Donald Trump has widened the gap in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. I mean, the only state that Harris has gained is Virginia, and she's only got a 2.6% advantage there. But according to her campaign, they're just getting started. The Harris campaign's communication director, Michael Tyler, says Kamala Harris has been a candidate for less than a week, but she's bringing in a lot of money. According to him, she's already coalesced the entire Democratic Party around her campaign, and the organic grassroots enthusiasm is producing results. Since President Joe Biden dropped out, it's being said that Kamala Harris's campaign has raised around $200 million in donations.
U.S. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris enjoyed a rapid consolidation of party support in the 7 days since President Joe Biden abandoned his re-election bid. And nowhere is that more evident than when it comes to raising money.
The day after I announced my candidacy, we saw the best 24 hours of grassroots fundraising in presidential campaign history.
That immediate surge continued. Her campaign said on Sunday it has now raised $200 million and signed up 170,000 new volunteers. President Joe Biden ended his re-election bid on Sunday last week and endorsed Harris for the November 5th vote against Republican former President Donald Trump.
But here's the question, guys. Are people donating because Harris is now probably their presumptive nominee, or are they pouring in money because Biden's gone? Because I'm not really sure if you guys remember, but several big-time Democratic donors froze around $90 million in donations if Biden was still the nominee. And so what happened 24 hours after President Biden announced this cancellation of his campaign? Well, it's been said that Harris raked in more than $100 million in donations. Does this sound like a coincidence to you guys? I told you before, I don't don't believe in coincidences. And the polls with Biden, they were so bad that they're celebrating just even the smallest bumps to Harris's numbers. News Nation's Nick Smith said that the momentum is shifting and it's favoring the Democratic Party. He showed polls where Harris was trailing Trump in different states. The Hill Emerson College polls showed that Donald Trump led her in Arizona 49% to 44%. Now, he also led in Pennsylvania 48 to 46%, and he leads her in Michigan 46 to 45%, and in Wisconsin, it's become almost a tie. So it's almost the same numbers that I gave you guys a second ago. I mean, the biggest difference is that they're making this sound like a win for Harris. Her gaining an inch is being hailed as her flipping the switch because Biden was getting smashed in these states. Now, this could all change by the time they have their debate. That is, if Harris is still the presumptive nominee at that time. But do you guys feel that this hype is all over? Or will this phase in Harris's campaign keep gaining traction? Now, I did a previous video where former President Donald Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's one that's creating a lot of buzz as some critics believe that Harris just doesn't have the confidence of the global stage to pull something like this off, especially when you see what Donald Trump did with Netanyahu. Now, I covered that a lot more over there. Definitely check that video out. Anyway, thanks for hitting the like button. Thank you for always making sure you're still subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.